Hello everybody and welcome back to the Kingdom Hearts 3 playthrough. So,
You guys should check it out.
we've made our way into a brand new zone because we finished all the Disney Worlds in the last one. And there are two brand new worlds waiting for us with two more to be discovered. The two that we've got at the minute should look very, very familiar. Well, not familiar, but you should be able to tell what the bloody hell they are. It's quite clear. But obviously, before we actually do that, we're going to return to the Kingdom of Corona, because there's something that I want, something that I tell myself I need, which is all of those treasure chests and lucky emblems. So that's what we're going to do today, because otherwise I think I would be going slightly mad. So, I mean, really, as we sort of go on this wonderful quest to get everything, I suppose it's probably worth me just pointing out sort of a few extra bits, seeing as, you know, we've had the boss fight, we've had the end of the world, the bits that I sort of wanted to sort of fully get to the bottom of. And that is just those whole sort of missing scenes issue. So obviously I mentioned the whole thing, we didn't see any healing powers of Rapunzel's hair until the end, which I suppose I can forgive in a sense because it is mentioned earlier on, but it would have been helpful to have that scene. There's also the whole Mother Knows Best reprise that was missing, which obviously just means that we just don't have any sort of explanation for where the satchel comes from when it's revealed in I See the Light. You've also got the reveal of Flynn's name as Eugene Fitzherbert, which I would say wouldn't have necessarily been a problem, apart from the fact that obviously in the scene in the tower, Rapunzel basically immediately calls him Eugene, and unless you know the story of Tangled, I mean, I would hope you would do. I mean, most people playing these games are probably at least enough of a Disney fan to have seen most of the key releases here, I would hope. So for people who know the films, it's fine, but for anybody who doesn't know it, and this is sort of their first experience of Tangled, having sort of Rapunzel suddenly call Flynn by a different name doesn't quite make as much sense as it probably should. So really I do feel that they missed a trick there. So if they'd managed to capture those particular scenes, however they managed to do it, I don't really care. I think that the world would have been a lot more cohesive, and it would have, all of the narrative would have made sense. Everything sort of would have been present and correct, and I think that that's sort of one of the things that I am always quite nitpicky on, and I think it's because at the end of the day I am relatively a purist when it comes to retelling stories. I mean, it's the same thing with me and, like, theatre productions. Like, I am always much more... how shall I put it? I like things to be performed traditionally more so than I do them being performed with new and interesting quirks involved. It's especially the case with Shakespeare, because I really sort of like the Globe, the Globe being a theatre in London, their sort of style of Shakespeare, which is more in line with the standard Elizabethan style of how we think it would have been performed. But that said, I am open to sort of things being a little bit more creative and sort of various different styles and artistic choices. For example, I actually really loved the gender-flipped version of Company that I went to see in the West End the other month, Company by Stephen Sondheim, because it updated a musical that I wasn't overly that interested in, but the changes made for that particular production made sense in sort of the current age, and it was just sort of, it felt a lot more up to date than I think the show has felt for quite a while. So in instances like that where it's changes that are sort of very well thought through, and there is sort of evidence in the text, I suppose, that allows for such things to work. I mean, I think that one particularly helps because Stephen Sondheim came in and actually helped rewrite some of the lyrics to make it work with sort of the gender flipping that they did. And I think sort of in those instances, that's okay, I like that, that's engaging, that's interesting. But it's what happens when sort of they don't do that I just go, not sure.
Let's see.
Also, there's a lucky emblem, if ever I saw one. Just got to get the right positioning, which is a little bit more challenging, but there we go. See, yes, I'm not averse to things being slightly altered to fit needs. As long as they'd kind of hit those story beats, however they decided to do, I think it would have been okay. I will say though, I am so glad that they kept sort of the scene in the tower pretty much one for one with the film, because it's perfect, and I think that they did a really good job of recreating. You might have noticed a slight shift in the way the cutscene worked, because it wasn't your typical kind of in-game rendering. It was actually sort of it was a pre-rendered cutscene. You can tell because everything's a lot smoother. Sora's hair sort of moves a lot more fluidly, I suppose. I believe they tend to do that whenever they've got particularly complex things that they want to do with the animation. So obviously Rapunzel's healing power and all those sorts of swirls, it was sort of necessary to sort of pull that off, I feel. They do it a couple of times throughout the course of the game, but I think that in comparison to what like most Final Fantasy games have done in the past, and I mean also really Kingdom Hearts, the more CGI cutscenes fit in a lot better and a lot closer to the in-engine cutscenes than they ever have in the past, and I think that that is definitely something to be really appreciative of, because it doesn't feel quite as jarring as it has done in the past. I think my only bit with the slightly jarringness is the fact that in Kingdom Hearts 3, at various points, we had it right at the start. We had sort of the stills of like all the old games in the sort of Kingdom Hearts 1 to Dream Drop Distance PS2 style visuals directly compared to this. Also, I love the fact that they've got the little duckling there, so the ugly duckling got representation in some form. Some form, it's not much, but hey. So something else that I also really love is that they did actually include the healing song, the flower gleam and glow, let your magic shine, make the clock reverse, bring back what once was mine, what once was mine. I love that they included that, because I think that it's needed in the scene, but equally that then does make me question, well, why didn't you include I See the Light? Because I think if there's two songs that this world needed, it was the healing song and it needed I See the Light. I would have also really happily, really desperately would have liked to have seen When Will My Life Begin Reprise 2. Because I'd say that they're the three key scenes that we experienced which involve those songs. it's like, at no point were we ever going to see the Mother Knows Best scene. That happens before we've even gotten into the world. Same for the original main Where Will My Life Begin. And also, since we never go to the Ugly Duckling, there's no reason for I've Got a Dream. But, so that's fine, I totally get that, I totally appreciate that. It's just the same as the fact of a lot of the songs in Frozen aren't present either. But where Frozen definitely gets Let It Go, because obviously it was going to get Let It Go. I do strongly feel that there was a slight missed trick here. But I suppose that part of that does also open up a bunch of other sort of questions. Because in interviews that have taken place relating to Kingdom Hearts 3, one of the interesting points that was raised was the whole thing of a lot of the teams that worked on these films being alive still. I mean, I think, well, yeah, basically every single film outside of Winnie the Pooh, it's still got kind of directors and producers and all sorts still alive, and the majority of them still at Disney. So it's one of those things where that brings with it a whole bunch of extra opportunities but also challenges, because you've got people who feel very strongly about the creative vision that they created, and a lot of the time they don't necessarily want to give that up to other people. They don't want them to mess with a particular formula. And I think, so one of the things that is mentioned in that interview is that Frozen was the one that had the most restrictions on it in terms of how they could use it, but I think that a lot of that is down to how popular Frozen became after the film came out. And this is something that I will talk about more when we get to Arendelle in the future. But I don't know whether it was that interview or a different interview, but Tetsuya Nomura said that actually they decided on having Frozen in from before the film even came out, because Disney actually showed them a preview of Frozen before the film came out, and they were just like, yes, no, we do need this in there. So they decided very early on that they wanted it in there, but I don't think anybody was quite expecting it to be the runaway box office success that it was. And then that obviously changes how you can tackle things. Whereas obviously Tangled did well, but it's not one of those Disney princess films that is quite so... I hesitate to say beloved, but you get what I mean when I say that, I hope. In the sense of, it's not one of the ones that people necessarily go to when they say, oh, that's my favourite Disney princess film. Most of the time you're talking about the Little Mermaids, you're talking about the Beauty and the Beasts, or sort of the classics like Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Cinderella. Tangled doesn't really tend to get a look in all that much. I mean, that is quite sad, because Tangled is absolutely delightful and I love it. But I think that it's one of those things. So I suppose that because of that, there's more flexibility in what you can do with Tangled. And I love that you got to have Flynn and Rapunzel as party members. That's just really awesome. It is obviously a shame that after you reach the actual kingdom, in the Kingdom of Corona, that Rapunzel leaves the party, but it makes sense because the next time that you see her, like now, kind of, that you actually engage with her, she's had all of her hair cut off. So she can no longer do all of the fighting actions that she was doing previously. So in terms of, you know, that all working out, it makes sense that that is how that works. It is just a shame that, you know, she can't bring her trusty frying pan to the mix, because that would have been quite awesome. Also, can I just say the Mirage staff is awesome, and honestly, I just really love magic things. There's just something to do with like magic circles and symbols, and it all just looks really awesome and magical and spectacular and sparkly, and I just love that sort of stuff. And I suppose something else that I can actually mention here is that I have actually ended up getting a brand new phone. I don't know if I've discussed this yet, but I've ended up getting a brand new phone, and it has a lot more space on it, and it is delightful. And I've actually started playing Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, because I was just like, you know what, I've got the space. I love me some Kingdom Hearts. Why not see what the experience is actually like and experience the story as it was obviously created, rather than just experiencing back cover. And while it is certainly incredibly simple and actually really quite easy, I'm having enough fun with it that I'm definitely gonna just sort of keep at it. And then I can officially say that I have played every mainline game in the Kingdom Hearts franchise. Well, mainline and spin-off. Outside of, you know, Kingdom Hearts Mobile and I suppose Kingdom Hearts VR. But neither of those are actually related to the plot of the franchise in any way, so I think I'm allowed to have that one. It is sort of, in experiencing that now, it's quite fascinating just to see how they did decide to tackle it from a sort of a mobile / browser based perspective. It's just quite a fascinating experience to go through. And that ultimately does boil down to how I tend to view a lot of stuff. I tend to always view things in that sort of critical technical space, because I think that it ends up leading to a deeper understanding, I suppose, of perhaps some of the choices that get made for various things, and it either makes you appreciate something more, or it allows you to maybe get to the bottom of why something necessarily didn't feel quite right. And I do think that sometimes that type of critical analysis is often lacking in a lot of gaming content in general, I suppose, on YouTube. Like, I think there are a lot of people that, I mean, this is maybe getting a little bit pretentious, but I'm just going to go for it anyway, because, you know, I've still got another over 15 minutes to go, so I'm going to pad it out however I can. I think you've got a lot of people who purport to present that more sort of objective, critical standpoint, but in doing that, they tend to miss part of what creates the magic of certain experiences. Is that whole thing of sometimes when you go really scientific with something, you just miss the heart of it. And is that sort of an instance where the technicalities of something are not on an equal playing field to how an experience can make you feel, what it sort of does in terms of your experience, all that sort of stuff. And I think that you sort of, yeah, it's a very different kettle of fish. Other times you get people who say that they're being of that more objective ilk, and they are very clearly not being of that objective ilk. They're being sort of incredibly biased, and just generally not giving things quite as fair of a shake as they really should have been. And I think those are the people that tend to frustrate me more, because at those points you tend to lose the... I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this in a way that sort of makes sense, I suppose. When you have those sorts of people who purport to be sort of critical thinking, but are just really biased about sort of everything that they discuss, it diminishes the actual quality of any critical debate that is taking place on something. Because people then, some people who don't necessarily interrogate elements as much as they perhaps should do, then take that to be a form of critical dialogue when it isn't, and then you end up getting really far off track from any sort of proper critical debate, and it just gets really depressing, because then you end up going on all these other different stretches of things that don't mean anything, and you don't actually get to the bottom of the issue. And I suppose in part that relates to the fact that a lot of people these days seem to not want to just in general interrogate the things that they hear all that much. And in terms of sort of political spectrums, this occurs both sides of the arguments. Like, you will get people who are more on the right, conservative side of politics, who hear something about sort of the left and go, oh, those communists, and are willing to believe anything. Equally, you've got people on sort of the more left side of the spectrum of politics who are much more liberal with certain ways of thinking, who hear things about those people on the right side of the political spectrum, like somebody's done something truly awful, and they just go, yes, no, I believe that, without interrogating what's actually occurred. And in general, that just leads to really, really, really messy non-debates, and people getting angry about all sorts of stuff, and nobody actually realising that, hey, there is actually a there might actually be a consensus here on something. And it's just one of those things that I wish that we were able to find a way of moving away from, so that we could go back, well, don't necessarily go back, but we could find a way to have the sometimes more complex debates on various issues, either quite controversial issues, because there are plenty that should be discussed and should be interrogated in many different ways, but then even on things that are just pretty unimportant, like gaming. Like, at the end of the day, outside of a few particular games, I can't think that there are many games out there that have got anything that is of the level of importance in them as sort of like actual political debates. Maybe being a little bit a little bit disrespectful to games, because sometimes they do deal with topics that are part of those sort of bigger political discussions. But in general, they're not really dealing with anything quite as serious. But that said, there are equally much more complex issues in the gaming industry as a whole, which should be interrogated in a calm, decent, intelligent manner, i.e. sort of debates about whether video game developers should unionise, the treatment of developers, the whole slightly weird gender politics within the gaming community, and what that sort of all leads to, and just all that sort of stuff. And I think that really those conversations should be allowed to happen, but they need to be done in a way that is respectful to all sides as best as you can. Because sometimes you hear someone's viewpoint and it is absolutely abhorrent, and you kind of just want to go, no, I'd rather not listen to that, thank you. But those particular instances are where the whole issue gets quite difficult to really figure out exactly where you want to stand and what is correct, I suppose. Because
I bet we'll find some
you get into really sort of murky territory with certain points of those sorts of conversation type things. And thankfully that has, got us into the delight that is the Kingdom of Corona. Also, loving the mention of the bookshop. It's just like, yes! Give me a good book. Speaking of which, excellent segue. My book is actually going to come out relatively soon. It's not out yet, but April 2019, it is coming, and it's really exciting, and I honestly cannot wait to let the Burning Ash out into the world. I'm just... I'm so excited. But that is something to talk about another day. It is not for now, whilst we're in the middle of the Kingdom Dance. So yeah, as with all of the mini-games in Kingdom Hearts 3, you can come back into them and go for a high score. Basically, you will get ranked on all of them, like A, B, C, D, whatever. And in order to get the actual score, well, the best prize, you want to get an A rank in all of them. Getting the A rank, not actually all that difficult, but with each of these minigames there is a trophy associated with them, and getting those can be a little bit more challenging. For example, the Kingdom Dance, I can't remember exactly the number that you need to get to, but I think it is something like 600,000 or 700,000 points.
Keep dancing.
Or it might be 70,000 points. Honestly, I can't remember, even though I only did this, like, a couple of days ago now, when I actually sort of came back extras-wise to come and take this on properly. Because this was just me mucking about, and just having a bit of a laugh, really.
Keep dancing.
I don't think that I did... Well, I mean, I didn't do phenomenally well, but I don't think that I did absolutely horrendously. Like, I have managed to get us up to over 40,000 points, which is, it's not terrible. It's a B rank. So we get junior medal for that. Yeah, I wanted slightly better. I think the main prize you tend to get master medals when you get an A rank. Don't know what the hell they do, but they're there. But yes, we will be returning and we will be doing that properly, but that will very much be post-game.
Hey, I think that's a lucky emblem.
Also, oh good, I did manage to find that one. I had a moment of just going, lucky emblem, where? It was on the door. It's generally always on a door, to be fair. But I do love that there's just this whole massive area of town that we just did not explore. Obviously we've got to have a little bit of a fight on this little wharf area just over here. But we didn't explore it properly, and there's all sorts of goodies littered around here. And I'm still loving the fact that there are actually just loads of NPCs milling around here chatting to each other, making it actually feel like the Kingdom of Corona is an actual living kingdom, and that's just really awesome, and I love that, and I just want more of it. And I was about to go, ooh, I need to set this on fire. No, that is actually where the lucky emblem is, so it's all good.
Yes.
But I couldn't seem to actually selfie that one.
Sora.
I was starting a plan of I'm going to selfie every single lucky emblem. It did not happen. It was not going to happen.
Let's see.
But I am, however, going to selfie this because, oh my god, it looks glorious. I probably didn't get the photo taken at the right moment, but it's okay. And speaking of cameras, I'm loving the camera on my new phone. Like, it's amazing. And really, I need to get my selfie game on a little bit more, because my selfie game is not very strong. It's because I'm a self-conscious twit who really doesn't do having my photo taken all that much. But also, I just prefer taking shots of other things like landscapes, buildings, flowers, etc, etc. And Flynn, or Eugene, you're in the way of my lucky emblem. And there we go, finally! Took its bloody time, and I think that actually that is all of the lucky emblems in the Kingdom of Corona. And, oh great, yeah, my selfie on that one was, drunk Sora. It was just like, ugh. And how are we doing on the treasure front? Oh, I'm missing one. Glorious! So I do remember, I don't know quite how I missed this one, but I know where it is. Basically, in the wildflower clearing, before you go down the massive, wonderful, slidey slope of gloriousness, there is actually a chest sort of hidden away up a hillside somewhere. So basically, you just need to make sure that you don't do the same mistake I did, and go pick the damn thing up. Otherwise, you're just going to do exactly what I did and miss it completely. So yes, just right on back to the wildflower clearing, and yeah, then we are pretty much done with the Kingdom of Corona. The only real reason that we'll have to come back here is to complete a couple of Gummy photo challenges, Gummy Moogle photo challenges, and then the Kingdom Dance. So we are very much all sorted, and I am loving that. Also, I went completely the wrong direction for this, and I was just like, no, I do not want to slide all the way down, because I know that it's not all the way down, but I don't know where it is. You're telling me go up a side somewhere here, guide, but which side? You're not being very clear. It's closer to the save point than this, I can tell you that now. Basically, rather than running towards the massive steep slide down, you sort of have to double back up a hill rather than doing what I was doing here and running around like a lunatic. So yeah, it's literally just up this hill by the save point. And there's the chest. Hidden away like no tomorrows, just a high ether, so nothing important. But that, my friends, is the Kingdom of Corona done and dusted for the time being. So before we head off on a brand new adventure to a brand new world, we're going to head back to the bistro, because we've hopefully got a bunch of new ingredients and can make some new things. And we can indeed, so we've got some more les entrées. We've also unlocked the special menu, which is a bunch of more challenging things. And can I just say that I'm not a fan of the flambeing.
We did it!
I believe I did mention this when we first came up against the flambeing, but oh boy, it's pretty much flambeing and the pepper shakers.
Yeah.
Nope, no siree. But I have done very well in the flambeing in these ones.
We did it!
So that works out quite nicely. Also, I think this is probably the first time, really, that the Kingdom Hearts franchise has sort of pointed out alcohol. Because even though, obviously it doesn't mention that it's alcohol, it doesn't show or doesn't say that it's alcohol, it's clearly alcohol, because that's what you do to flambe things. Slash oil, I don't bloody know. But yeah, this is ridiculous. There's a mini-game for cracking an egg.
Right.
Also, it's not quite how you would end up sort of cracking an egg, but hey, it's like very, very sort of carefully done. Normally it's just like whack it on the end, crack it open and you're fine. But yes, that's basically all we can do in here for the time being. So let's leave the bistro. And it is time to move onwards. And while next part we aren't going to quite be in a new world, we're going to make it to a new world. And I'm sure that's going to be quite exciting.